Christmas surprise. I'm up here, Alice isn't. Surprise. Did everybody have a wonderful Christmas? Christmas is such a wonderful time of year because we put so much into it. We plan and prepare for weeks. Everybody who owns a toy store is thrilled that Thanksgiving was so early this year because there was another week for shopping. Yeah. So we shopped for 4 or 5 weeks, and then we started our Advent season as part of our Christmas preparation. We had 4 weeks of first faith, and then hope, and then love, and then joy. And with each of those weeks, we got closer and closer to experiencing the rebirth of the Christ within each and every one of us. And we put a lot of attention into it. We put a lot of effort. We put a lot of detail into not only celebrating Christmas, but experiencing Christmas. And this week, we'll take the wreaths down. And we'll put the lights away, and the trees get packed up, and then what? Now what do? Seems like we did an awful lot. There was a lot of preparing. There was a lot of partying, and now it's just putting away. And if I remember right, that's what I did last year. I partied, I prepared, and I put it away. And every year, is that it? Prepare, party, repeat. Prepare, party, put away, repeat. No, because on Christmas Eve, we had that candle lighting ceremony. And we held that candle in front of us, and we just celebrated the rebirth of the Christ presence within each and every one of us. And we remembered who we are. I remembered who I was. Divine. You're divine. We want to pack that up and put it away. That's the present from this presence. That's the present we got this year. That reminder that we are not just of God, we're a piece of God. We are God. We are divine. We have that presence right there inside of us all the time. We don't just pack it up and wait for the next holiday. It's that presence that gets the attention, not that present. That present is temporary. That present was fun. There's a lot of fun with the presents. That's a big part of Christmas because you get to show people how much you care about them. You want to make them happy. You want to see the joy in their face when they open it. But it's temporary. It's a present. It's not a presence. There should be something more behind the present, behind the paper and the packaging and the ribbons and the bows and the gifts and the trees and the lights and the decorations and the parties. There's a new beginning. There's something to start with. There's a little tiny sprout that happens at Christmas time. And it's just the smallest of things reaching out for the light. This is actually a palm tree. It'll get 30 or 40 feet tall. But this year, it's just a beginning. It's just a start. Found it in my yard. Unfortunately, I found about 500 of them. But this is the one we want to talk about. Right? The rest of them didn't fare so well. They're in my landscaping. But this one, this new beginning, this new start is what we want to talk about. Because that's what Christmas is every year. It's starting again. It's remembering that Christ's presence, that's the reason behind all of the presents. So what do we do with this little thing? If I left it where it was, it probably would have just died. If I don't do something with it and I just leave it somewhere on a shelf, it won't last either. And I'll have to wait till next year to find another one to take care of. This thing, this beginning, this start, this reminder needs a little nurturing. When I was preparing for this talk, I found a whole bunch of Bible quotes, so I'm going to hold this through the whole message, so bear with me. If you're not a Bible person, they're short, but there's a few I want to share with you. Because like this little seed over here that just started to give a little bit of life, there's a passage in here in Luke about a mustard seed. And it's kind of amazing when I looked at it, because it simply says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. Move from here to there, and it will move. But here's my point. Nothing will be impossible for you. From that little beginning, nothing will be impossible for you. Nothing. Now, they use a mustard seed. And we always hear that they use a mustard seed because they say it's the smallest of seeds and it grows into the biggest of trees. But that's not really quite true. There's lots of seeds that are smaller than a mustard seed. There's a lot of little flower seeds. If you ever planted flowers, they're like a speck of dust. So there are smaller seeds. And this mustard seed doesn't necessarily grow into a tree. Normally it grows into a big bush. It takes over whatever it's around. But I think that we're talking about a mustard seed because a mustard seed is a scrappy little seed. When the seed pod opens, it throws the seeds wherever they land. And these little seeds don't need much. They can land on rocks. They can land on really, really rotten soil. They can land somewhere where they get almost no water. And they can land somewhere that's extremely, extremely hot. But they thrive. And they get huge. And they produce a multitude of little tiny seeds to spread. And they'll take over the area that they're around. But the point that I want to make is they just need a little water. They just need a little nutrients. They just need a little light. And I think that's why Jesus said faith must be like a mustard seed. Because he's just asking you to do a little. You just have to do a little. Put a little effort in. Make a little intention. You don't have to join a ministry. You don't have to be a nun or a monk or get into a convent to have great faith to move mountains. He says, it's like a mustard seed, just needs a little. And nothing will be impossible. So I decided a few years ago that I was going to do that little bit of nurturing. I had heard forever from Reverend Alice, you need to pray and meditate every day. You need to create your own prayer practice. Well, like the mustard seed, I only nurtured it a little. I didn't give much. But I did my meditations. And meditations are kind of cumulative. They kind of grow on each other. And I didn't do them every day. And a lot of times I did them, and I would sit for 10 or 15 minutes, and at the end I thought, all I've really done is figured out what I need from the grocery store. Because my mind wouldn't go anywhere else. And I thought, well, there's another wasted 20 minutes, but I tried, so we'll come back again tomorrow and see what happens. And sometimes I would have a meditation where I would close my eyes and open my eyes and blink like that, and 30 minutes had gone by, and I was rested and peaceful and calm, and I felt wonderful. Oh, that must be what really meditation's about. And then I'd go weeks of just making up my grocery lists. But I had my intention, and I was doing my little bits. And then I had this experience one time, and I can't really explain to you what happened, because you wouldn't believe me. But I was meditating, and I had this very profound experience. And I don't want to give you mine because you could have your own. And you may have. But I'll tell you what it did for me. Scared the bejesus out of me. Scared me to death. I was like, what in the world was that? And so you know what I did? Stopped meditating. I said, oh, okay, I don't know what that was, and I'm not really sure I want that to happen again, so I'm just going to, That was because if I told you what really, really happened, you'd be like, oh, hold on. Okay? But I sat with it and realized it was profound. And if that can happen with just a little bit of effort, what if I really set my attention behind this? What if I really made a point of putting time into my meditation? What if I really set up a prayer time and stuck to it? So I did. And I invite you to do the same. Because things started to shift. And I didn't even see them shift. Because all of a sudden, I would realize that somebody would push one of my buttons, and I've got some pretty big buttons, and I've got a bunch of them. And some of my family members know exactly how to push them. And some people just driving past me know how to push them. But I started realizing they'd push my buttons, and I wouldn't react. And I was okay with that. And it was calmer in my life, and it was more peaceful in my life. And all I was doing was trying to meditate. Because that's all that little mustard seed needed, was for me to try. So I'm doing my time to nurture that little start. Because this year it might be just this little sprout, but if I nurture it all year long, next year it might be about that tall. And in a couple years, I'll stand under the shade of it. Instead of preparing and partying and packing away, I'm going to prepare and then participate. My next quote is from Proverbs. And it's in chapter 3, verse 5. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight." Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. Because that's what I'd been doing for a long, long time. I spent 10 miserable years as a certified public accountant doing other people's tax returns because I thought I knew how to get ahead. I thought I knew what success was, and I thought I knew what was important. And it was awful. Awful. Hated going to work. So I decided to start participating and letting God's insight run my life. And not even really consciously doing it, because sometimes you don't know you're listening to a voice that isn't your old voice. But that little shift has taken place over time. And if you would have told me 5 years ago that I was going to be a ministerial student, I would have laughed in your face. Because I would have said, oh, no, why in the world would I? And even 2 years ago, I would have said, never. But that presence inside of me kept prompting me through other people, through side doors, to say, you should do this. You should go there. You should take this class. So I was here at church, and I was working at church, and we started having our SEE classes, spiritual education and enrichment classes. Great set of classes. You learn everything you could ever want to know about unity, and it's really all these soul growth steps that you can take. So I thought, I'd take these. Knowledge is what I was used to doing. Started taking classes. Well, you need to take them for credit. And I'm like, why would I take them for credit? It's just for whatever. And Roxanne kept prodding me and signing me up for classes. And before you knew it, I had 25 classes done. And people said, oh, you're going to be a minister. And I said, oh, no, I'm going to be a licensed Unity teacher, because when you take the SE classes, then you can use those classes and just be an LUT, and you're good. Everything I want to do, I can do as an LUT. I am not becoming a Unity minister. So I've got a year of ministry school under my belt. Yeah, now I'm starting year 2. And all these things conspired, I think, around me and behind me to make it happen. And I'm in these classes with students from all over the United States, and what I realize is the same things happened in their lives to get them where they are right now. They tell me what their life circumstance is and how they're working and taking classes or being able to not, for some reason, in the first time in their life, not have to work but can afford to take the classes. And I'm thinking, how are you doing this? How did this come to be that you're in a position where you can't even figure out how you're making this work, but it is? And I thought, oh my gosh. They're participating in their divinity. And the whole world is supporting them. Their spouses, their jobs, their employers, their Christmas bonuses, all are helping them so that they can get into the next semester of class, that they can go one step further on their soul's journey because they're listening to that presence within them and participating. They nurtured, they prepared, and now they're participating, and the world is answering them. And I see that in people that I work with. I see that in people in this congregation. I see that in some of you. I know how your lives have changed. I've seen my friends over the years who, when they start paying attention to their soul and remembering that presence and being present with that presence, just with a little intention, just giving it their best, which may not be a lot, but they're starting, their lives change. There's peace, and there's joy, and there's love, and there's conflict, and there's tragedy too. But they can get through it. I went to a funeral for one of my best friends yesterday. It was his sister, his niece, and his grandniece had all died tragically. And they had to do a memorial service for all three of them. And I was able to be present for them in the family, and he was able to be present for his family, because he was so centered in his divinity. That's what you get to do when you pay attention to that presence inside of you. It changes everything, especially if you pay attention. I just got over the flu. You can still hear a little of it in my voice. Apologize for that. But I was down for a good 2 weeks. And I had the most amazing experience with it this time, because normally, oh, how you doing? Oh my God, I am so sick. I'm dying. I'm dying. But people would say, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine. My body is sick as a dog. But I'm fine. My body is exhausted. I couldn't get out of bed for days. But I kept thinking, I'm fine. I kept telling my body, come on, body, you need to get over this. You need to heal whatever's in there. Come on, immune system. We need to work together. So I went to the doctor, went to a few doctors, took all kinds of different things to get over this. So I helped my body. But my body was sick, but I was fine because I was paying attention to that presence. I was aware. That lit candle that I lit on Christmas Eve, I was still holding and trying to nurture it. So my third point, with another Bible verse, has to do with something that Luke has reported Jesus said. And it's when he gave us the Lord's Prayer. Because we all pay attention to the disciples say, Jesus, how do we pray? And he gives them the Lord's Prayer. And we pay attention to that because people have said that ever since in every language. And I've worked with that prayer. I've used that prayer the way it's written in the Bible. I've changed the verbs to make them all affirmative. I've gone back and looked at how it translates, if you come back from the original Aramaic, as the words Jesus would have used. And they're all a little bit different, and they all give you a little bit more meaning. But if you read a little bit further, there's more to that. Jesus tells you more than just how to pray. In verses 9 and 10, he says, So I say to you, ask and it will be given you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. Because he didn't just give us the Lord's Prayer as something to say. He followed it up with this promise. Ask, and it will be given you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who searches finds. Everyone who knocks, the door will be opened. He doesn't just say how to pray. He tells you what happens if you do pray. You get an answer. It may not look like what you ask for, but you'll get an answer. You'll get something back. What he's saying is, this works. This works. So now with my presence that I'm paying attention to, I'm doing my preparing. I'm doing my participating. And now I'm anticipating. Because the sky's the limit. I don't need to move a mountain. But I've moved enough stuff to go, I'm no longer a CPA, I'm a ministerial student. And if you're ever a CPA, that's almost a mountain. I'm on the other side of the mountain, let me tell you, from where that was. Yes. Don't want to go back either. But I love the people who still do that. I've got a lot of friends who still do it, and it's their passion, and it's wonderful for them. It wasn't me. It wasn't mine. It was my mind thinking it was what I needed to do. It wasn't my soul telling me what I'm supposed to do. So this Christmas, as I spend time with this presence, I want to move from preparing and partying and putting it away. And I invite you also to consider that presence within you, that candle you held on Christmas Eve, to prepare for it to grow, to participate when it tells you what to do, even when you don't understand and not sure where it's coming from, and anticipate things beyond your wildest dreams. Every time I do something for ministerial school now, I have to send in an updated application of where I'm at in my studies and what's my vision for my ministry. And every time I go to write it, I go, I don't know. How in the world can I limit what I might be able to do when I graduate to a couple sentences to let you know where I plan to be in 2.5 years when anything is possible? Anything. And why would I want to limit it and say it, oh, I'm going to do this, period. Because now I'm open to whatever, question mark. So consider that. Consider that candle that you held on Sunday or Monday night. Consider that presence that's deep within you. Consider focusing on that with just the smallest of intention. Because that's all it takes is a beginning, a sprout. The smallest can become the biggest with just a little. Let's prepare. Let's participate. And let's anticipate in the best years you have ever lived in your life. So let's take this into a time of meditation. I invite you to close your eyes, set aside anything you may be holding on to with your hands, set aside anything you may be holding on to with your hearts or your minds, to settle into this very moment, right here, right now. And if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And remember that candle you held on Christmas Eve. Remember that small flame. We held it right in front of our heart space, acknowledging the Christ presence within until we could feel that flame, that presence actually inside of us. As we remember who and what we are. We are beloved children of God. And more so, we are of God himself, herself, itself. That Christmas flame thrives within each and every one of us because we are divine. And we take this moment to reclaim that knowledge. I am divine. My truest, highest self is divine. I let go of my ego, my worldly dreams and desires, for they limit who I could become and who I am. And I let the light from that flame in my heart space glow and expand until it is so bright I can't see my own body. Because my divinity is greater than my physical self. I am divine right here, right now, in the silence. Feel the power and the strength and the joy that comes with acknowledging your divinity. I know who I am. I am divine. In this moment, for this hour, during this day, and throughout this lifetime, I claim it, and so it is. Amen.